Hey miners, Mining King here. Today we're going to be talking about the Braiins control board. So let's get right into it. So today we're going to be checking out the Braiins control board that I got from the actual Braiins development team, right? So huge shout out to these guys for, letting me be able to test this out. Really do appreciate it. So let me go ahead and open this and I'll kind of show you guys what it is. I already took this thing out of the package, so now, what is Braiins? Well, Braiins is a firmware and they also make a control board, okay, that you can use with your S19s, okay? And I believe that there's development for the S21s coming soon. Now, why would you want to use their firmware or software at all, right? Well, Braiins will let you actually it'll do two things. One, it'll let you be able to undervolt and underclock your ASICs. This way you're able to get the most efficiency out of these things. I am usually around, I'm able to get about at least 10% efficiency gained on each of my S19Ks, right? So that's great, right? We're able to really drop that power down, as well as increase our, we're decreasing our watts per terahash to make our mining more efficient. So this way our profitability actually increases, right? So this is a very good, useful tool. Now, some people do use this to overclock, but you have to be careful doing that if you're using the stock power supply that usually come with the S19s and stuff like that. Usually people that are overclocking are usually doing this in immersion. So kind of do that at your own risk, right? I personally use these to undervolt and downclock my ASICs, not overclock them, right? I want to increase efficiency, not just really get more hash rate. So you can see here on the control board, okay, that you have your data cable plugins, that you have your fan hookups, and then you'll see here in the front, see if we can get her to focus, that it has a Ethernet, a IP report, and a reset. And you also have your fault lights, and then you have your PCIe power here in the back, right? So it's pretty typical, and this pretty much looks like your typical Bitmain, control board. So you will have to take your actual S19 apart to use this control board, just in case you didn't notice. But it's a very simple process, and it's only like a few screws to get this thing out, and it's so easy that anyone can do this. So let me go ahead and let me grab the S19 and let's start diving into it. Now, before we get started, you are going to need one piece of equipment, which is going to be a Phillips screwdriver. So let's go ahead and let's open the top cover of our ASIC. I have a donor unit that Desert Miner was very gracious enough to let me borrow. It's an S19J 88 terahash, and it's an S19J Pro. So the first thing you need to do is take off the just to loosen. You don't have to take it out all the way. Is the screw in the very back where the push button is, right? And then all you should have to do is press the button to get it to kind of release, and you might have to wiggle it a little bit, push the button in pretty firm, and then push up, and it should come out. It should come off the unit pretty easily. It depends if it's been there for a while, it may be stuck. So now you can see that all of our connections here are on for the control board. You're gonna wanna make note of where these plugs are plugged into right now for the data cables. So be sure to keep track of those, right? The next thing we want to do is, before we actually take out the screws and actually take out the control board, is we want to actually take out all the connections, because it's much easier this way because it's being held in place. Also, when you're pulling on the connections, be sure to actually grab the connector and not the cables, because you can actually rip out the cables this way, and then you're going to have bigger problems. So once we've taken out the data cables here, the next thing you're going to want to do is going to be to unscrew the front plate of the unit. So I have the Asic plugged into my garage. So let's go ahead and let's hop over to the computer and let's go download the Braiins toolbox. Okay, so we're over here at braiins.com, and all you got to do is come up here to the top to the toolbox, and then you're going to click download. It's then going to take you down to a link. I'm on my MacBook, but it does also support Linux and Windows and all the other operating systems, right? So it's very user friendly. So once you download and install that, right, it's just a typical program. There's nothing, fancy or any kind of frills about it. Let's go ahead and let's go look at the actual Braiins toolbox once it's installed. So the first thing you're going to have to do is, when you come over to Braiins, is you're going to have to come over here to the device management and then set up your IP range. And this is exactly how you do it: 192.168.3.1 through 254. So it's going to scan the whole subnet. You can have it do just whatever specific address you want, or you can just do the whole subnet. So anytime you put on a new device, it'll automatically pick it up, right? So once you have that installed here, you can just click here to open up this in the tab here, right? And the password stays the same because that's just the generic password is root and root. So it's the same thing as having a brand new Bitmain operating system, right? Now, this thing isn't doing anything because we haven't put in a username and password and all these other things. But before we do that, what we want to do is we want to come over to the performance tuning. Right, so you can enable auto tuning or you can disable it. Now, it's been a little while since I used Braiins, but I don't remember you being able to do the actual voltages and the frequencies. So this is really cool. You don't get this feature by downloading the firmware from the internet and then putting it through the miners. This is only inside when you have the control board. So really interesting. That wasn't like that before. And look at this, you can even adjust each individual's hash board's frequency. So this is really cool that you're able to actually tune each individual hash board's frequency, because maybe you have one that's underperforming, or maybe you have some that have some, faulty chips or something like that. Really cool to see this, that you could do all this tuning. This is not in the normal firmware. So this is really cool to see these features. So we're going to turn on auto tuning, and we're going to set it for a power target of 1650. I really want to drag this thing down. I really want to try to increase the efficiency of this super old miner, right? This is an S19J Pro 88 terahash. So she has been, showing her age a little bit, right? So let's go ahead. Let me put in my pool information. Let's get this thing spooled up. Let's get it mining. All right, guys. So I've been playing around with this for a little while here, okay? I try to lock it to about 1850 and it's pushing itself to 1950. We're getting anywhere from 26.5 watts to 27 watts a terahash over here. And that's going to depend on temperature and environment. Probably you'll do a little better in the wintertime when the temperatures are cooler. Now I am in Arizona, so you probably will get better results, right? But if you come over here, this unit typically sits at around 30.5, and this is only at 25C at the wall. It's hotter than that in my garage right now. So this would actually probably be more like 31.5 to 32.5 watts per terahash at my wall, right? It's not very good efficiency, but look at this. You've increased this by almost 20%. Almost 20% increase of efficiency right there. Going from the low 30s down, almost down to the mid 20s, right? That's really, really impressive. So to be able to take this and be able to, you know, tighten our efficiency down is super key. This thing is only 3 watts per terahash shy of a stock S19K Pro. So keep that in mind. And this is an old dinosaur unit, guys. So this just goes to show you that I've tried some other tunes too. You could drag it down a little bit more, and 1650 was doing also pretty good. So I like that one too. You'll get similar results around 26.5 to 27.5. The tune is going to kind of bump around until it finds its equilibrium there. But man, this is just crazy of how great the Braiins team has done to increase the efficiency of miners, man. We're only just a few watts per terahash shy of an S19K. That's insane. So what do you guys think about Braiins OS? Are you guys going to be picking up one of these control boards? Man, I think it's really cool. And I definitely find that I definitely like having this, the control board itself, than having the actual firmware just loaded on top of the Bitmain one. I definitely feel like you get more features with this. It's a lot more robust. There's definitely a long delay time if you're putting the firmware over the Bitmain firmware. And I like the extra features of being able to tune the individual boards. So let me know your guys' thoughts. And thank you, Desert Miner, for letting me borrow this, or borrow the S19. You will be receiving a Braiins control board for free. So congratulations, Mr. Desert Miner. All right, guys, this is Money King giving you the most hashes, and I'll see you next time.